Bill Guarnere became one of the central figures featured in Band of Brothers, largely because of his close friendship with Major Dick Winters. Beyond his role in the series, he played an important part in preserving the history of Easy Company by providing many of the personal stories and details that found their way into Stephen Ambrose's book. After the war, Bill, together with Mike Ranney, dedicated countless hours to bringing the veterans of Easy Company back together. What began as a simple effort to reconnect old comrades eventually grew into a tradition that lasted for more than 60 years. For many former squad and platoon members, those reunions were the first opportunity they had to see one another again, since the war had ended decades earlier. This interview offers a remarkable look into Bill Guarnere's life before the war, throughout his combat service, and during the many years that followed. His story is rich with experiences that deserve to be told, and there is still much more of Wild Bill's remarkable journey to explore. William J. Guarnere was born on April 28, 1923, in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was the youngest of 10 children born to Joseph and Augusta Guarnere, growing up in a busy household where family was everything. From a young age, Bill displayed an adventurous streak and a fearless attitude that would later define him in combat. When he was just 17 years old, his mother arranged for him to join the Citizens Military Training Camp. In reality, she had stretched the truth about his age because Bill was actually only 15 when he entered the program. He remained there for 3 years before the training program was eventually discontinued. Looking back, Bill often realized how close he had come to becoming an Army officer, missing that opportunity by only a single year. After leaving the training program, Bill attempted to finish high school, but life had other plans. Rather than continue his education full-time, he accepted work at the Baldwin Locomotive Works, where he helped build Sherman tanks that would soon become one of the most recognizable Allied vehicles of the war. As the world grew increasingly unstable, America watched events overseas with uncertainty. Then came the attack on Pearl Harbor, changing everything almost overnight. Before officially enlisting in the Army, Bill worked the night shift at the factory while continuing his studies during the day, balancing long hours of work with the hope of preparing himself for whatever lay ahead. Reflecting on those uncertain months before America entered the war, Bill remembered how nobody really knew what would happen next. Before the war in Philadelphia, we never knew what was going to happen. We kept asking ourselves, are we going to get into the war or not? Honestly, we didn't even know where Pearl Harbor was, but after the attack, everything changed. Like countless other young Americans, Bill felt there was only one path forward. Most kids joined the Army, Navy, or Marines. I was one of them. It was the right thing to do. When the opportunity to volunteer for the airborne presented itself, Bill was immediately drawn to it. The paratroopers were something entirely new, carrying an aura of excitement and danger that appealed to his adventurous personality. The paratroopers were new and exciting. I told myself, let me try it. If I make it, I make it. He never lost his passion for jumping from airplanes. I love parachuting, there's nothing like it. And when it came to the best, paratroopers were the best. Other outfits thought they were, but we knew better. The training was among the toughest in the Army, but Bill believed it prepared them for the realities of combat. Every drill, every march, and every exercise had a purpose. When it came to weapons, his favorite was the .45 caliber Thompson submachine gun. You couldn't shoot far with it, but I loved it. Bill admitted that in those days he was a wild young man. His first experience in combat came under heartbreaking circumstances. Just before entering battle, he learned that his brother had been killed fighting in Italy at Monte Cassino. I was a wild man back then. When I went into combat for the first time, I had just learned my brother had been killed in Italy at Monte Cassino. You didn't want to be a German around me that day. Every German I saw, I killed him. I don't know how I made it through. That loss remained with him throughout his life. In the years after the war, Bill returned to Europe 16 different times, making sure to visit his brother's grave during every trip. At the time, you didn't realize you weren't alone. Everyone had their own losses. My hatred of Germans burned then, but it's gone now. The war is over. Although Bill was of Italian heritage, he never struggled with fighting alongside the Allies against the Axis powers. I'm Italian, but there was never any conflict in fighting. It was a war of survival. If you thought too much, you were dead. Among all the battles he experienced, D-Day remained the memory that stood above every other. Most of my strongest memories come from D-Day. That was the big one. After landing in Normandy, Easy Company linked up with infantry forces advancing inland from Utah Beach near Brecourt Manor, with Dick Winters leading the way. Everything happened at an incredible pace. It was fast and brutal. We were full of adrenaline, and by the end, we were exhausted. The Germans had little idea that the paratroopers had already established themselves behind enemy lines. Once the fighting had subsided, Bill climbed a nearby hill to scout for additional enemy positions. The exhaustion finally caught up with him. I just collapsed, dead asleep. When Joe Toye found him lying there, he feared the worst, believing Bill had been killed. Looking back on Operation Market Garden, Bill never hid his disappointment. Holland was a fiasco. Market Garden was Montgomery's operation. He knew that there were German armored divisions nearby. The British soldiers fought like lions, but they were led by a bunch of goddamn donkeys. Despite the hardships in Holland, nothing compared with Bastogne. Bastogne, though, was the worst. December 1944, the cold cut deeper than any bullet. The brutal winter conditions left a lasting impression on him, but so did the courage of the medics who worked tirelessly under impossible circumstances. That's why, to this day, medics are my heroes. In those conditions, under fire, they kept men alive. Bill always believed Easy Company's success came from the leadership it received at different stages. Captain Herbert Sobel built the company through relentless discipline and demanding training, while Dick Winters transformed that disciplined unit into one capable of extraordinary achievements in combat. On D-Day, Winters took command of Easy Company. He was the best officer I ever served under, a natural combat leader, but he also inherited a fine company. Captain Sobel trained us. He gave us the discipline, but he couldn't lead in combat. The sergeants forced him out. The officers knew it, but they couldn't do a damn thing. Sobel gave us toughness. Winters gave us confidence. Between them, they shaped Easy Company into what it became. To Bill, there simply wasn't a better company anywhere in the Army. In my mind, there was no better company in the Army. When the war finally ended, Bill returned home to marry his sweetheart Franny, who had faithfully waited for him throughout the conflict. Together they built a family, raised children, and tried to move forward with ordinary life. Like so many veterans, however, leaving the battlefield behind proved much easier than leaving its memories behind. I tried to forget the war. Nobody talked about it. Because of the severe wounds he had suffered, Bill relied on crutches for a long time after returning home. Whenever curious strangers asked what had happened to his leg, he brushed the question aside with his trademark humor. I joked that a shark bit my leg off. For the next 50 years, he rarely spoke about his wartime experiences. I never cared much for war movies. The way combat is portrayed, it's like a fairy tale. The one exception, in his opinion, was Battleground, 1949, which portrayed the experiences of the 327th Glider Infantry during the Battle of the Bulge. The only one I thought came close was Battleground. Bill also reflected on General Anthony McAuliffe's famous response when German forces demanded the surrender of Bastogne. General McAuliffe really did say nuts to the Germans when they asked us to surrender. He didn't know what else to say. Although the 101st Airborne received much of the public recognition after the war, Bill always reminded audiences that the fighting extended far beyond one division. While the 101st got all the publicity, fighting was happening everywhere, and many units paid the price. When Band of Brothers was released, Bill appreciated the attention it brought to Easy Company, but admitted that it was not entirely accurate. I noticed some inaccuracies, too much cursing. I never talked that way around my children. Even so, his friendships with the surviving veterans remained as strong as ever. I still keep in touch with the men, Babe Heffron and others. Those bonds never fade. The Easy Company reunions became one of Bill's greatest lifelong commitments. The first reunion took place in 1947 while he was still recovering in hospital, preventing him from attending. 13 men attended, and we asked each to bring another the following year. From then on, Bill devoted himself to organizing the reunions year after year. ensuring the friendships forged in combat would never disappear. Captain Nixon was a good man, and he came. Joe Toye, with 4 Purple Hearts, was the greatest unsung hero. Bill often thought about the men who were no longer alive to tell their own stories. The ones who have died can't keep their memories alive, so I do it for them. He hoped people would always remember Easy Company, but he also wanted history to recognize the countless others who contributed to victory. Remember that many units and countries helped win the war: the Navy, Air Corps, Marines, the British, Canadians, Australians, South Africans, New Zealanders, and more. Whenever he spoke to audiences, he emphasized one point above all others. Without the U.S. Navy, we never would have won the goddamn war. As the years passed, Bill's views on war became even more direct. There is no glory in war. It's simply hell. I can't explain it. You have to be there to experience it. He often compared the experience to freedom itself. Near the end of the war, Bill believed that Allied priorities had begun shifting toward the planned invasion of Japan, resulting in fewer supplies being sent to Europe. Even after all the decades that followed, his words continued to capture both the pride and the pain carried by the men of Easy Company. His stories remain among the most memorable accounts shared by any veteran of the 101st Airborne, preserving not only his own experiences, but also the memories of the friends who could no longer tell their own. Was Wild Bill your favorite member of Easy Company? If so, let me know why in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe.